Okay, so we are starting the book Aghora, the left hand of God.
My teacher, the Aghori Vimalanand, spent many years perfecting his knowledge of Tantra and its advanced discipline, Aghora. He distilled his experiences and presented me with the essence. My comprehension of Tantra is due entirely to his instruction and is redolent of the influence of his personality.
So, what does this imply? Aghora is the advanced process of Tantra. So, who was the first Aghora? The first Aghori was actually Shivji. So, this entire Paddhati starts with Shivji.
Tantra is the science of personality. Just as Ayurveda was promulgated by the ancient sages of India as a truly holistic way to maintain the physical body, and just as Ashtanga Yoga is meant to optimize one's spiritual nature, Tantra is a mental science, a metapsychology, a method for exploring the mind and developing the range of one's perceptions.
So, what does Tantra do? Shimangla, you have to distinguish your speaker.
What do I
So,
do?
what is Tantra all about? Okay, so the Tantra is all about expansion of consciousness through various processes. So you're connecting with expanded states of consciousness. It's very similar to technically to what we are doing with the Monroe process also, going into altered states of consciousness.
It is said that the state of undifferentiated unity is the only absolute reality, and that the cosmos possesses only a relative reality because it is not permanent and unchanging.
Okay, so what does this mean? Very clearly, when we are looking at it from the Gita perspective also, the ultimate aim of any sadhak is to go into oneness, to transcend duality. So Tantra is also a method of transcending duality.
The universe possesses all possible qualities and attributes, and each being within the universe possesses a limited number of qualities and attributes.
So again, what does this mean?
Personality.
The whole naturally has everything, but we do not know that we are a part of the whole. So we have all the qualities. We are aware of only certain qualities within us. But it doesn't mean that underlying we do not have access to the other qualities. So very much like the movie Matrix, where when they went into the Matrix, they could actually they wanted to fly a helicopter. So the program for flying the helicopter was downloaded into their system and they immediately could fly the helicopter. So the idea here is that we in as conscious beings, because we are only our availability of awareness is only so much, but actually there is so much. So in this much we feel that we do not have everything.
What, what is this extra 1K person came on 18?
The universe possesses all possible qualities and attributes, and each being within the universe possesses a limited number of qualities and attributes. Personality is the self identification of the ego with a set of attributes. All beings possess egos, and therefore, all beings have personalities.
So to be able to live in this world, you have to have some amount of ego. If you do not have, if you drop ego, you don't have any ego at all, then you will start identifying with everything around you. So there will be no distinction between anything around you and you. So to be able to exist in this world, it is necessary to have a little bit of ego, and your ego defines your personality. Okay.
All beings possess egos, and therefore, all beings have personalities. The cosmos herself possesses the ultimate personality, the supreme expression of the totality of manifested existence, the Adi Shakti or Adya.
So that means the whole. Okay. Ardhanarishwari, everything is whole, everything is equated. There is no duality left. That is when you become Adya Shakti.
To state that humans, animals, trees, and flowers possess own individualities and idiosyncrasies is less apt to induce controversy than to assert that even beings which are disembodied or which are embodied but are less individualized than we also possess personality.
So, what does this imply? That anything around us, whether animate or inanimate, has a personality, has an ego, whether we like it or we don't. Everything possesses a personality and ego.
The issue of disease is a good example. Diseases are beings with parasitical intentions. Some have collective bodies like worms, bacteria, or viruses, just as bees and ants show signs of collective consciousness. Other diseases, bereft of their own bodies, arise within organ systems of some animal or plant due to metabolic malfunctions.
So again, you start with consciousness from the mineral level. So each atom has its own consciousness, and this has been seen in quantum mechanics. Now, if the atom or I mean, even the quarks, they have their own intelligence. Then the quarks become electrons. The electrons become neutrons and protons. The electrons, protons, and neutrons together become the atom. The atom becomes the molecule. The molecule becomes the element. The elements combine in a particular format to make a complex molecule or a complex chemical. The chemicals combine to make other stuff, right? So consciousness derives right from the subatomic level up to the to whatever state of consciousness you may be. So over here he is very clearly saying that disease are also conscious beings. They have consciousness and they feed on other bodies many times or can survive separately also. But having said that, they can develop collective consciousness, the unification of consciousness. So they work together. Okay, it's again, when we are talking from the excursion point of view, we say we want to go into a whole brain state. We want to make the left and the right side of the brain work together. So, like that, even disease can have collective consciousness.
When the intruding personality differs significantly in sophistication of organization from its host, physical disease is likely, for then the attacker's ego will be insufficiently developed to assume control of all essential physiological functions. Conversely, when the spirit of a dead human enters the body of a living human, it will feel right at home and the disease will display predominantly mental symptoms such as altered values and habit patterns.
So, now what does this mean? That if I am familiar with an environment, I will always exert more control in that environment than if I am not familiar with that environment. So a disease is not part of, let's say, my body gets a disease or someone's body gets a disease. That disease is coming from outside, so it cannot exert so much of control. Now over here, he's brought in a very a valid but a controversial thing over here, that a person can get possessed by another entity or another human, a spirit who has been in human existence previously. Now, because that spirit has been in human existence, it knows how the body functions. So it can actually start taking over the body. We will talk more about this later. I don't want to bring up the details of this topic right now.
Whatever the intruder, cure is the expelling of the alien and the return of the normal personality. An individual's immunity exists on the physical levels in white blood cells and in antibodies, and on the mental level in the degree of personality integration. The cause of immunity is the ego's power of self identifying with body and mind. The word ego is used here not as a Freudian sense, but as an indicator for the force of individual identity in the organism.
So now what
The
happens?
stronger,
You have a certain personality, you have a certain character, right? Now, if another intruder comes into your body system, your personality may change. And this happens. All of us have intrusions, whether we like it or not. But when that personality which has come into our system can exert more control, then if it takes over more than 50%, our personality will start to shift and change. This is called spirit possession in the shamanic concept. I was not wanting to bring it here, but it's coming again and again. So you can actually see the face of the person change. Okay. There are many cases where, people Hanumanji aa jate hain. There was one gentleman in Calcutta in Park Street. He used to have Hanumanji used to come into him. And when Hanumanji used to come, his face used to change. In the FSS program, we experience the same thing where there is a partial possession and there is a technique by which you can remove the partial possession also. But now if that possession, that partial possession starts taking over more than 50% of control of the personality, then the identification of the the original personality will get doubled and the intruding personality will start taking over. This also happens when people have organ transplants. There's this book, The Heart's Code. I don't know, it's a little technical whether we'll read it or not. But in The Heart's Code, they've done a lot of research where people who have been donated hearts by other people, their personality takes a total shift. Okay. So what he's saying over here is that if it is a disease, the, the ego, which is actually running the body, can expel it. But if it is an intruder and that intruder gets more than 50% habi on the body, then the personality will totally take a shift.
the stronger the self identification, the greater the immunity to attack from another personality, which might usurp some area of the ego's domination. Every cell is ceaselessly remembered by the ego as being part of its organism. When the organism dies, the cells are free, in the absence of the ego's grip, to go their separate ways. If a cell rebels against the ego's domination and seeks to proliferate itself into a new personality, the result is a cancer. Be the predator external or internal, disease is its onslaught on one's personality.
So now, how today when we are conceived, we are just one cell, right? Then the cell divides into two cells and so on and so forth. Ultimately, each of those cells, they start becoming organs. Now, there is no difference between the cell of your skin and the cell of your heart, but they are performing totally different functions. How does that happen? That happens because of the blueprint. So the auric field or the energy field into which the physical body manifests is more important than the physical body itself. So over here, what they're attempting to say is that the ego or that auric field, when it is exerting control over the situation, then the cells perform the duty that they are supposed to perform. But if that control of the ego or that auric field gets lost on the cell, then the cell starts doing things which it is not meant to do, which results in cancer.
According to Tantra, everyone is ill who is doomed to live with a limited personality. Only those who go beyond time, space, and causation to become immortal can be said to be truly in harmony with the cosmos and therefore truly healthy.
Okay. So what does this mean? That everyone is ultimately doomed to die. Everything. So the concept of entropy can be brought in here. Everything is going towards ultimate destruction. Okay. So now according to Tantra, everyone is ill who is doomed to live with a limited personality. So we all are living with limited personalities. Why? Because there is only one complete personality, which is the divine being, where there is no distinction, there is no duality. Now over here, And only those who go beyond time and space and causation to become immortal can be said to be truly in harmony with the cosmos and therefore totally healthy. If I'm one, then when there is no duality, I cannot be sick. It is impossible, because I am the whole. So till there is duality, there will always be an issue of being incomplete, and therefore I can fall sick.
Since health is derived both from internal balance and from harmony with the entire environment.
So again, over
Hence,
here, very clearly, our environment is also a reflection of ourselves. We create our environment. So we have to be in balance internally as well as externally to become whole. And that's the only time when we will be disease free.
hence, one significant area of tantric research has always been methods of prolonging one's life.
So this is the core, that how can I extend my life? How can I reduce the entropy in the system? How can I go into an altered state so that I do not need, I can be whole right here. Okay, that's the essence of Tantra.
Why would one want to extend one's life?
The point here is that as we start becoming clearer and clearer and clearer,
Hmm.
also what has been said is that this earth is like a school.
Yeah.
Okay, we come here to learn, and this place has a premium because the kind of education you can get over here, this I'm talking from the Monroe perspective,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of experiencing and the education you can get here, the
Mm-hmm.
same thing will take money, thousands of time, amount of time to take place in another realm.
Okay.
What you can experience here, it quickens the pace of the
Mm-hmm.
learning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called the quickening also.
So why not then do what we do in Ikigai?
Yeah, so that's exactly what they're talking about over here. That how do I prolong my life? What was Ikigai talking about?
Also
Finding your
prolonging.
purpose in life. What was your
Be,
purpose in life?
yeah,
Doing
be
it to the
happy.
best of your ability.
Yeah,
Focusing your attention and doing it to the best of your ability and
yeah.
not
The
letting
same.
go.
Yeah,
You're getting that?
yeah.
and
So
and it creates value for someone else. So Tantra actually is around, it's it's actually clarifying yourself, going into higher and higher states of consciousness, constantly improving yourself. A real tantric will be focused on what he is doing. It is literally following ikigai. Of course, Tantra has got very, very maligned because of people going into those states. And as you go into these states, you have more access to the manifestation process of the universe, because you're going into those subtle states. And some people have misused it. Because of that, it has been totally maligned. But really,
okay.
it's a very, very pure kind of a purpose, because it's actually clarifying your personality. It deals with that, it doesn't deal with anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
in one sense, the added years are significant mainly because they indicate the degree of successful achievement of the rituals.
So now, if you are successful in practicing what you need to practice, the proof is in the pudding. So if you practice it properly, then automatically you become healthier, you become more intuitive, you become your lifespan increases. So even in the autobiography of a yogi, we talked about Babaji, who's been around for thousands of years. Okay, what was that? He's clarified himself to such a degree that he can manifest and demanifest anytime he wants. He doesn't have any control. Again, if you see the movie Matrix, the same thing happened with Neo in Matrix 3. He could manifest and demanifest at will. He did not need to go through that plugging in and all that. He could go into the Matrix and come out whenever he wanted to. So as we clarify ourselves, we can start doing that also.
Ayurveda is also concerned with longevity, but its approach is to strengthen the individual's innate personality. Yoga, recognizing the essential impermanence of the human personality, seeks to efface it entirely to permit one to return directly to the unlimited absolute. Tantra aims to replace the limited personality with an unlimited permanent one.
So when he's talking about yoga and Ayurveda, they're talking about when we are living here, right? In this particular lifespan. They're not going beyond that. Tantra wants to go beyond that. So to elongate life so that I can be here and still achieve that oneness while in this physical body.
An individual may fail to become eternal, but may, in the course of tantric practice, accumulate sufficient energy, Shakti, to obtain some extraordinary power called a Siddhi. Wisely used, Siddhis can accelerate one's spiritual evolution. Commercialized, Siddhis bind one down more firmly to the wheel of cause and effect.
So an individual, if they are doing the practices, okay, they are following the rituals, they are following what needs to be done, then they get certain powers, which are siddhis. Having said that, the siddhi can actually help your evolution. But if you get stuck with the siddhis, the ego starts to identify too much with the siddhi, then it can also be your downfall because then you stop your progress. For example, we saw in the Celestine prophecy, I don't remember the names of the people, but some of them were stuck in the third insight of only observing the energy flowing. So naturally they have got stuck with the siddhi of being able to see the energy flow. Now they are not progressing anymore. So having siddhis is a big issue today because you start, you get adulation, you get people coming to you and saying that you can do this, you can do that, and then that's where you get stuck. So over here he says very clearly, commercialize siddhis bind one down firmly to the wheel of cause and effect. So you get stuck in the pattern. You'll keep going and coming round and round, round and round like a broken record player.
One simple sort of siddhi involves the collection of some particular herb at the astrologically appropriate moment with the appropriate ritual.
So now, what does this mean? Now, this is very important for Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, when you really want to make the medicine in a proper way, the Ayurveda practitioner used to go to the plant beforehand and tell the plant that at this particular time, in this nakshatra, in this phase of the moon, I will come and take this part of you to create this particular medicine. Because even with plants, the sap of the plants or the chemical composition of the plant in different phases of the moon or in different times of the year is different. So a true Ayurvedic practitioner will know when the plant will have the most potency for the particular medicine that he is wanting to create or the effect that he wants to create. Now, that is also a siddhi, that awareness to be able to figure out when to break the plant and how to communicate with the plant to get the best particular effect.
After further preparation, such plants can bestow superphysical powers on their users. The plant species selected is one known to have an affinity for the sort of power desired. The ritual draws that power into the plant at the moment when it is available in the cosmos to be tapped. The herb's own personality is then overshadowed by the personality of the force drawn into it.
So they are actually telling the plant that this is what we want and this is what we want to do and invoking that power into the plant.
Metals and gems are also used in tantric alchemy. Indian alchemists, like their Western counterparts, searched for the philosopher's stone, the way to turn base metal into gold. While exoterically, this base method referred to iron, bronze, brass, and copper, the esoteric reference was to the transmutation of the base metal of the individual's limited consciousness into the gold of enlightenment, a state of unlimited consciousness.
Now, this is very important. We talk about the philosopher's stone. We talk about turning normal metal into gold. What they were actually talking about was the consciousness, the evolution of consciousness from the low level of consciousness to a higher and a more subtle and a more evolved level of consciousness. This was the actual goal. But people read it that they are, because see, when we are talking of all these things, it is not speaking from a materialistic perspective. It is speaking from a spiritualistic perspective. So in spirituality, materialism has no place. So when I'm talking about evolution of iron to gold, it means I'm evolving my consciousness, not the base metal.
An alternative meaning suggests the transmutation of the base metal of the body into the gold of immortality via the touchstone of Amrit, the elixir of life.
So again, as we start evolving into subtler and subtler and subtler states of consciousness, we start touching, or I mean, illness cannot be there. If you're so subtle, then illness cannot be there. You cannot be ill. You have all those powers automatically there, but the ego doesn't touch it. So you start becoming immortal. Okay, that's what Amrit was all about.
It is said that herbal based preparations can prolong one's life for 400 to 500 years, but that through the use of mercury, there is no end to how long one can live. Mercury is regarded as the ultimate metal because it is the sole element which can be brought to life. Repeated herbal applications and treatments with fire bring the mercury to life. It is then treated like a child. Its appetite is awakened and it is fed.
So
At an
again,
appropriate point,
Mercury,
it is
Mercury,
sacrificed.
Mercury is the only metal which is all can exist in a liquid form normal under normal temperature. So what the mercury was very important in the alchemist method of preparing of excelsiors, etc. This is what they are talking about here.
Tulsi has mercury or what?
What?
Tulsi also has mercury in it.
Tulsi ji also
Yeah,
has
it has
mercury.
Amrit properties. It has a lot of Amrit properties.
Tulsi ji has mercury, and it has a very, very powerful energetic field. And personally speaking, I use it a lot when I'm doing energy rectification in people's houses. It has the capacity to absorb a lot of negativity and emit a lot of positivity.
And Nikeji, in पुराने जमाने में बोलते थे पारा से gold हो जाता था, पारा का कोई चीज मिल जाता था. It could change. That had a quality. I know of somebody through mercury he can make gold. I mean now इसके लिए बहुत सिद्धि चाहिए होता है. There is this Swamiji which I know. He has made gold out of this mercury.
It's
So what?
possible, but the kind of effort required, this actually talks more of evolution of spirit, to be frank with you. Of course, it is possible to transmute any metal into anything. In this book, I think it was in Secret Life of the Soil, they did an experiment where they fed chickens a certain quantity of food, and they were measuring all the possible elements in the food. Okay, now when the chicken was excreting, it was excreting more calcium than what it was consuming, but the weight of the bones, etc., was remaining the same. So what was said was that the body of the chicken or the processing has the capacity to transmute anything into calcium. So that process is there, but are we going to focus on that process of actually converting a material thing into a material thing, or are we focusing on the evolution of consciousness? That's the point that we need to look at.
Correct.
And also this, Niket, I've
Yeah.
heard that the ultimate shivling that is made is also made of para.
Yeah. So the shivlings, you have many mercury shivlings also. So
Yes.
they have a process of solidifying, I don't know what they do, of
Yes.
creating the shriveling out of mercury. That is
Yeah.
also there.
There's a process which is followed.
Yeah.
Mercury is regarded as the ultimate metal because it is the sole element which can be brought to life. Repeated herbal applications and treatments with fire bring the mercury to life. It is then treated like a child. Its appetite is awakened and it is fed. At an appropriate point, it is sacrificed. The personality thus created is thereupon liberated to display its attributes, and with its assistance, one can create gold, fly in the air, or live eternally. Or rather, the new personality can take over one's body and live eternally through it. Mercury, which is less efficiently prepared, cannot bestow immortality but can cure disease and increase longevity. Insoluble preparations of mercury and sulfur are widely used in Ayurvedic medicine. Such compounds are byproducts of alchemical experimentation.
Okay. So
Alchemical.
a lot of metals are used in Ayurvedic preparations to give certain properties. Raju Mama, you have something to say?
या ये जो भस्म आती है आपकी,
हाँ,
जैसे सोने की भस्म बनाते हैं, चांदी की
correct.
भस्म बनाते हैं,
हाँ,
so that is one thing. And second is this is very difficult to change one element into another. It is easy to change a molecule into another molecule by some
correct.
reaction, something. But
Correct.
changing an element is difficult because उसका electronic structure change करना पड़ता है.
Correct.
And that is a part of alchemy which they have talked about.
Correct. Absolutely. That is what they are talking about.
Immortality is a desirable goal in the context of the Indian belief in reincarnation. If one has a long list of karmic connections to be lived through, it is infinitely more convenient to live through them all in one lifetime rather than be forced to endure rebirth again and again.
Okay, so now what does this mean? In the Gita talks, we are talking about vasanas. We are talking about the prarabdha vasanas and the sanchit vasanas. Now, one transcends only at the ultimate end when all your vasanas are eradicated. Now, when we come into this life, we are dealing with the prarabdha vasanas which we need to deal with in this life. Now, as we go back, we exit this life and we come back with the next life, the 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 vasanas, the sanchit vasanas, which have matured, will become the prarabdha vasanas of our next life. Now, if I can live a long life and get rid of all my vasanas, that is the prarabdha as well as the sanchit, then I can go back into oneness much quicker. This is what they are talking about here.
Herbs and minerals are only two methods for achieving immortality. However, another method is practiced by Aghoris, Tantrics who have superseded all ritual limitations. When they find themselves near death, any good yogi will know of his impending death 6 months in advance as his prana or life force begins to flow out of his body. Aghoris deliberately leave their bodies and enter the bodies of corpses, taking them over and making them live for as long as they please, until they decide to change bodies again.
So this concept in the Western world is called a walk-in, where a person is near death and they exit the body and the new personality takes over the body. This is a lot written in the PMH Atwater's book. I think forget the name of the book, but she talks about this, and there's a lot of research which has also been done on this, where the personality of a person totally takes another turn. Also, when a person, the personality which is existing in this body can make an agreement with another personality that I'm fed up with this life, I don't want to live it anymore, and another personality will come and occupy the space. Okay, so this happens here. Now the Aghoris could do it at will, so they could keep staying here. The personality remains the same, they just shed the body and take another body. Now, incidentally, this kind of a thing was also spoken about in Ultimate Journeys in Robert Monroe's book, where he said that the bodies were just lying and you could just go and occupy any body that you want. There is another serial also which talks of the same kind of a concept, which is there, I think, in Netflix. It's called Altered Carbon, where the consciousness is in a small disc. That disc is inserted into a body, and the personality of that disc, which is in your personality is in your disc, can come into another body. So this concept has been around for, I mean, millenniums. It's always been there, but some people know how to do it and some don't. Okay, now having said that, what they also said, that it is not so easy to force a personality, to force itself into you, because there's a conflict. Your personality is going to try to fight that other personality. But if there is an agreement between the personalities, then it becomes easier to do. So over here, he clearly says that when they find themselves near death and they get to know it 6 months in advance, uh, the Aghori deliberately leaves the bodies and enters the bodies of corpses. So what is the meaning of bodies of corpses? The personality which was running the corpse has naturally left the corpse or left the body. That's why it becomes a corpse. So there is no conflict. They can just take it over and come out. So there have been cases where a person is being taken to the Shamshan Ghat and the person simply gets up. I don't know if you all have heard of it, but I have heard of it, that the person suddenly gets up. This also happens when a near-death experience takes place, where a personality has gone out of the body. The body I mean, in the monitor, it's a straight line. So the body is not living anymore. And then suddenly you come back. So whenever a person has a near-death experience also, the personality of the person takes a shift. There are certain attributes. So maybe a new personality has jumped into the body, or maybe the old personality has only come, but they are shifted.
But if it's a new personality, then it can be completely different
Absolutely.
as a person, then it becomes
Absolutely.
difficult around.
No. That you're talking from your personality. Now, today, if your husband suddenly changes, then you will have a problem, right?
Yeah.
But that guy is not going to have a problem.
Scary मुझे बहुत scary लग रहा है सुन के घबराहट हो रहा है.
but you never know, maybe the personality who comes up will be a much better personality also.
Yeah.
But this is absolutely possible.
Mhm.
Most dead personalities cannot move about so freely on their own, and some tantrics worship in graveyards and charnel grounds simply to catch hold of human spirits to force them to perform work. This is also a sort of siddhi. The sort of work possible depends upon the power of the captured personality. This method produces quick results, but it is dangerous, for a minor error in ritual may result in insanity, death, or worse.
So now, when the energy is leaving a physical body, right, it has a personality, it has certain characteristics, it has certain qualities, it has certain abilities. Now, it's like anyone, like today, if I have a friend, right, and I can get my friend to do a lot of stuff for me. So, in the same way, you can actually force or make a friendship with the energy field to do your work. Now, this is exactly what is happening in shamanism also. You're going into an altered state and connecting with a spirit. You're connecting with an energy field and making a friendship with them and then asking them to do your work for you. Having said that, over here, what they're talking about is not making a friendship, but forcing that field to do your bidding. So naturally, if you're forcing someone to do something, that person can push back. So it can create a problem for you also.
But this graveyard is not for Hindus because we burn the bodies. So this must be a Christian cemetery.
Yeah, so
or-
they may go to a Christian cemetery or a Muslim cemetery.
Uh,
The Hindus also they bury when children die very young, then they are buried. They're not cremated.
so
Okay.
these tantrics go into these I mean, Christian cemeteries or Muslim cemeteries and
I,
do
I
their
have no
tapasya there?
idea. I have no idea about that. But the fact is
But
that, yeah, they
I've
go
heard
to
of
places.
them going to Shamshan Ghats.
So that is what
Ah,
he's saying. Na? So the point here is that they go to places where people who have died are there.
नहीं, शमशान घाट में जाके तो फिर वो जैसे कपाल वगैरह रहते हैं ना, उसकी कपाल क्रिया जो करने के बाद में कोई जो छोड़ जाते हैं, तो इसीलिए बोलते हैं ना कि कलेक्ट ऑल दी, मतलब जो भी अस्थियां रहती हैं.
Ashes.
Correct.
Nee, that's why they say that should not leave someone who's died. You should not leave their bodies alone.
Correct.
That's, you
This
don't
is
leave
the
it
reason.
alone for the.
Yeah, so that's why that is the reason, you're right on that when a person has passed on, the spirit hovers around the body because that is what is familiar. So that's the reason why, you're told that sit there and chant something good and all that.
Good,
So
yeah.
that the energy,
All-
the spirit which has released from the body gets an impetus to go into a higher state of consciousness and not get stuck in a lower state of consciousness. Okay.
Also, Niket, we also put
Yeah.
Tulsi Patta and Mala and the Gita ka book also, no, when a person moves
That's-
on.
Yeah.
So that must be,
That's exactly why you do it. I said now that the Tulsi ji
Yeah.
has a good energy field.
exactly,
It has a
yeah.
violet field and it
Yeah.
allows a person to, it gives energy to transcend. That's the reason
Yeah,
why we
right.
put that.
Bhaiya, can I
Hmm.
ask one question?
Yeah.
Is it also like in a lot of families, they say somebody who's pregnant should not be near somebody who is about to.
Exactly. Because the spirit of the transcension soul can go into the baby. The baby's soul, again, PMH Atwater talks about it, and also Ruth Montgomery, there are books by her also. So they talk about that the soul of the baby doesn't
Yeah.
reside in the baby all the time. The soul keeps coming and going. You understand? So
Yeah.
when the soul is not there, the body of the baby is actually unoccupied, right?
Okay.
So another spirit can come in. That's why they always said that ladies who are pregnant need to look at good things. They need to engage in stuff which is uplifting, not in stuff which is depleting. Today, I think it will come in this book also. If you're smoking, if you are drinking, it allows the entities to enter you. Are you all getting what I'm saying? So the idea, that's why a pregnant lady was very protected and was considered sacred in our societies. In fact, in every culture, the pregnant lady is considered a sacred entity, right? The pregnant lady always had a different kind of a stature. When we look at it from the biofield, the biogeometry perspective, the pregnant lady emits the same frequencies as a sacred space. So if you're going to the sanctum of a very powerful temple, the energies emitted in that temple are emitted by the womb of the pregnant lady. But to see the form of a pregnant lady, literally the dynamics and the way the lady can balance the baby in her stomach is mind-boggling, because when you're looking at it from the physics perspective, it is not possible to balance it. Okay, but the balancing takes place because a sacred space gets created around a pregnant lady. When we look at it from the axis system, we've been checking the axis with the antenna. Whenever a baby is in the womb, we'll always have double axis.
Oh.
Okay, we'll get a double axis. And let me tell you one more thing over here, that when a lady has a abortion and the energy field doesn't transcend, you'll get more lines of axes in the lady. And let me tell you, it's in the man also. Are you all getting what I'm saying?
Why I didn't understand actually.
When a couple has conceived a child, they have conceived the child together.
Yeah.
So the energy field will be there in the man and the woman.
Okay.
of the child. Now, if there is an abortion and the energy field related to the child has not transcended,
It'll
then
be
it
available
hangs
on
around with the mother and
both the
the
parents.
father.
The father. Okay.
And at certain points, when that energy wants to release, it causes tremendous amount of problems for the mother and the father. Okay, I'm just
Okay,
bringing
okay,
this other
okay.
stuff into this picture here. But having said that, what happens here is that that's the reason that we tell pregnant ladies to really look after themselves. And the pregnant ladies were also pampered to a certain extent. Okay. In
उनको
our time.
शाम के टाइम में बगीचे वगैरह में भी जाने का मना करते हैं.
Yes, because the energies which are not congenial to our normal day-to-day living, they come out at night. They are more, they are more playful at night rather than during the day.
But
Kumudji, you have a
भैया,
question?
भैया, I have one question.
भैया.
भैया,
Yeah.
ये जो 5-6 साल के बच्चे जो भगवत गीता पढ़ लेते हैं, या who can remember कि he used to live here to some remote village में मैं ये
Correct.
करता था. So these are also some like these.
Yeah, so we've all lived tens of thousands of lives.
No, that is okay, but not that Aghori thing, na? Like any energy entering the pregnant woman.
Maybe a Gori thing also. We don't know.
Maybe, na? That's the
Maybe.
question.
Maybe.
कि उन
Absolutely.
लोग भगवत गीता भी पढ़ लेते हैं सब.
Yeah, it could be. Yes, Kumudji.
Niket?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have two questions. Number one, sometimes we say like, okay, if the, like say grandmother has passed away and the next year there is another girl child born in the family and you say कि उनका रूप उसमें आया है and things like that.
Yeah.
So does this has this thing what you are discussing just now, is
Yeah.
that spirit moves? So does
Yeah, it
it
is
come
possible.
to somebody?
Absolutely possible. The reason is
Another-
that when we are looking at it from the perspective of shamanism, there are certain spirits which are ethno spirits. They want to look after the tribe. So they keep coming back and being born in the tribe again and again.
Okay.
Another question I have, when we were saying,
Can we see your face? You cannot. We have a rule now. If anyone is speaking, you have to switch on your video.
So when we were just saying that when a person moves away, tulsi patra and all that, I don't know that they put two pearls on the eye. What does that signify?
So I'll tell you, there are many rituals that are there in all cultures. And the eyes are the doorway to the soul. Okay. So I would say that some cultures, they put coins on the eyes. So it's like you can still see when you're going into the other realm. That is what my understanding is. Okay. I think we need to stop here. What?
Pure pulse is also purity.
Yeah, so pearl is also representing the eye, na?
Okay.
The pearl.
Yeah, got it.
In many cultures, they put a coin on the eyes. Many cultures they put coin.
Yeah. Let's finish this page only.
Okay, go ahead.
Other ethereal beings who never took human form can also be bound by Tantra and their tremendous power harnessed. The most present are the deities, personifications of various
Cosmic. You have to go on the other side now, Shivangla.
It's become a...
Yeah, so various cosmic forces. The ultimate siddhi is control of Adya, the personification of the entire cosmos. Okay, so the point here is that through processes, like today when we are talking about shamanism also, you're going into the upper world and into the lower world, and you're making friendship. You're associating with these energies or these entities, and they actually come and help you. Let me tell you. Okay, you can actually feel the presence of these helping spirits and guides. They're there all around us all the time. The point is whether we are being able to connect to them, whether we are becoming aware of them, whether we are taking their support. Now, one is forcing them to do your will, and the other is associating with them in a friendly manner and asking them to do our will or to help us to do. So when we are looking at the gateway affirmation, what is it asking for? The thing is asking for help from those who know more or equal to me with a sense of gratitude. So we are not forcing them to do it. We are asking them when we are doing it from the Monroe perspective or the Monroe process. Here, you are actually going into that altered state and enslaving the energy field to do your bidding. So at some point in time, it is going to bite your back again. This is the biggest problem with the tantric principles, where if your ego and your personality wants to dominate everything, that is where the problem starts to happen. Okay? Any questions, anyone? Otherwise, we'll stop here today. I've read this book after a long time, although I read it 2-3 times before, but it's becoming much more interesting now.
Mhm.
Anyone, anything?